So I recorded the first ever DPW book recommendations video, and I can't get it to work.
Too good of quality.
That's what it was. The camera's 4K, and the shitty Adobe Elements, Premiere Elements, instead of the... Because I don't want to... I would buy the pro version of the video software, which would better handle the 4K quality, because it's all like stuttering and lagging and shit, and I just can't edit it. But I would buy the pro version, but you can't buy the pro version. You have to pay monthly. So it's like $50 a month or whatever it is. I think it's on sale now for $40 a month. Instead of just being able to buy the program outright, you just lease it for a year.
Oh, that. A
lot of these software companies are doing. I think I want to say Microsoft Word ended up doing that, and I just got really pissed off. I was like, "Come on, you fucks!" Because like, who wants to use a program that you have to pay every month on?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only way that the only good outcome that could maybe cause would be like, I'm spending the money on it, so now I better definitely use it. Like, you know?
Yeah.
But even still, it's almost just to not use it out of spite.
Call me old school, but I like when you could actually just buy something and own it.
Right?
Even if they did like, you could get the pro version, pay for it outright, and then you just get it, but you don't get any updates and any upgrades or anything later on. I'd be fine with that. Because I still...
Yeah, because in like every year or so, you could just buy the newest update, or, the newest version.
For the longest time, I used one of their Photoshops that was like the old version back when you could just buy it outright. So I just had the Photoshop, and I just used that all the time, even though they had all these new ones that came out after, because I don't want a fucking subscription service. Now, like, the one you can buy, I guess, technically, is what I have, is the Elements, because I got it when I got my computer. I just had the software on it already. It, I think it was like $100 or something, and you get, like, the Photoshop and all the other stuff. But those obviously have limits. And again, it's fine when I just do, like, the podcast, because it's not really video. But when I uploaded when I imported the video that I was trying to, it wasn't even a long video. It was just, it kept stuttering, like, you couldn't edit it. And I was just like, this sucks. And I looked up so many solutions, and everyone's like pretty much just, you're fucked, there's been a problem forever. I was like, well, why is it even an option to have 4K on there?
Yeah, if you're not able to handle it, why have it as an option?
Because like a lot of people, the first question, well, maybe your computer's not, you can handle, your computer can't handle it. That's not the problem. My computer has all the qualifications needed because they have a thing that what your computer needs, the minimum to run the fucking shit. Yeah. I have that. And also it plays on other software. Like if I just click on the video to play, it just plays on whatever QuickTime or whatever's on here. But the fucking the video editor, it just doesn't work. And I was looking at other ones to buy. Some of them are like $500.
Jesus.
I was like, I don't want to do that just for like videos that we're making for fun.
Yeah.
That's really stupid. And that's the thing, my phone video that I did, the first one, like the quality of that video wasn't that much different. And that worked fine. So I don't know. But that's my irritation of the week. So I'm just going to like maybe redo that video at a lower, like, I don't know, 1080p or something and see if that works. And we'll see. So it's like I got the 4K fucking video recording device for nothing. I didn't want to be too angry.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to upset the dog upstairs. Any old news? Any new news?
I got nothing going on.
Well, that's the end of the cold open. But bye! We got a great show for you. Stick around after these messages from our sponsors. Do you need the Man Grate? Man Grate is not our sponsor. I wish Man Grate was our sponsor. I don't even know if Man Grate's still around, but if it is...
There's like that... Like the man grooming one. There's a new like... The
ball shaver, manscaping stuff.
Yeah. I think we could sell some of those.
I feel like we could. Do they need images before and after? Because I got it. I got them already. If they would send us a free one, I would use that. Because the trimmers I use just tear up my nads. They do. They're shitty. They just... right, that skin just folds right into it.
Rather just use like a weed whacker.
Oh, man. Yeah, those are bad. I don't like them. They're like those cheap ones you get at like $30 or $40 with like the kit.
Yeah.
I guess they're supposed to be for your face. Well, I ordered these on Amazon because it said good for sensitive areas.
Yeah.
But I specifically looked up ball trimmers. Like, I want something I could shave my gonads with and not get bloody.
Yeah.
And that's what they were supposed to be, and they still did. I forget what the fuck is the name of that now? I see it on YouTube all the time.
Yeah. Because, they're supposed to have, like, even, like, special, like, the blades won't go and just eat up the nut skin or anything.
That's what it is, the nut skin. You can't ever smooth it out enough. Oh, man, it's supposed to be, like, a classy episode. We're talking...
And you can't ever get them all. You always get a strangler or two.
Yeah.
Like, you can't ever just get them all.
Lord help you if you decide to pull it out by hand.
Oh.
Good morning, DPW here, and we are living the high life.
As long as it's not the Miller life.
The Miller life?
Yeah.
Miller high life.
Yeah, I would rather not live that life.
Yeah, I guess right. This is not the Drunken. We could do that, change it to the Drunken pen writing. We're Drunken.
Yeah.
You alright over there? You struggling with some water? You got corona?
No, I died.
Oh, you died?
Yeah.
Like I said, Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. Welcome. Yes. Galore clap. Today, according to the Globe,
Yeah.
it's a good one. Forgot this was a country. I'm Caleb James, your host. With me, Spencer, the Turkmenistan Terror Church. It's a good. I was worried I was gonna flub that.
It's also a good wrestling name.
Yeah, Turkmenistan. That'll be the next episode. Authors from Turkmenistan.
I'm sure there's many.
If you're reading the title of this, I probably worded it so specifically that you were like, yes, I need to learn about, I don't know, it's probably a generic title, like boners for writing or something. But we are going to be talking about simple ways to improve your writing. I didn't want to have a long episode because I had a long day. And by long day, I mean someone at my job apparently was ill or something, and I left. I was like, okay, see you later. Like, I'm not hanging around this fucking cesspool. I'll tell you about that later.
At least you have the ability. You can just jump in your truck and just take off.
Yeah, just get the fuck
I'm
out
delivering stuff. Leave me alone.
I'm not hanging around here. Oh, no, I wrote some notes about 10 minutes ago on this.
Okay.
So it wasn't like very predetermined, but it was predetermined in the fact that I thought about it kind of.
Yeah.
So almost research went into this. Not quite, but almost. These are just things I do in my writing.
Simple thoughts.
Yeah, these are things that I do in my writing, but I've spoken.
I'm talking to the other writers.
I've spoken to other authors who also share these ideas. I guess they use them. I'm having a hard time here. I ate a lot of meat before you came over too, so I'm kind of like trying not to sweat.
Oh, you get the meat sweats?
A little bit. And
the lights.
The lights are beaming. I forgot to turn the side lights on. The fireplace was on down here, and the heater was pumping when we came down. Good Lord.
Podcasting on our undies today because it's so goddamn hot.
Ooh, I am in shorts and a t-shirt. And it's freezing outside. Well, it was. It actually got warmer as the night progressed.
I think my car said like 40 on the way here.
Yeah, it was like 20 degrees when I went to work. And then, you know what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this. I fucking care about this stupid pop filter. I hate this fucking thing. I'm going to jam it up your ass, Spencer.
That's rude.
Every episode I'm going to have an outburst now. It's like a gimmick.
It's just towards me?
Yeah. So everybody will feel sorry for you. So when we get to doing the videos on YouTube, you can have a video every once in a while that nobody knows about. And everybody like, oh, there's Spencer. We feel so bad for him. Like a puppy that gets beat.
Maybe they buy, like, once we get putting stuff out, they might buy it then. Just be like, he just gets it all so bad.
Get them fucking... those pity points.
Yeah, whatever.
The first one on this is the big one, and I just thought about this earlier because the Coin Locker Babies I'm reading uses metaphors and stuff, fairly decently. But this is one where this might actually be a more advanced one, I think, for a lot of writers. But if you can master this, your writing will really improve. And I know I said simple things, but this is kind of simple to start with. It's just the matter of, how well you end up doing it. So instead of going with similes, go with metaphors. I feel like metaphors are stronger and it will just have more of an impact on your writing. So I just put generic examples here. I'm sure you'll like this. The first one's the simile. So you just say which one you think is more, just better imagery. The first one, he punched Spencer in the face with the fist that was powerful like dynamite. Okay, you can kind of get the image, but if you use the metaphor instead, his dynamite fist exploded into Spencer's face. It's short. Yeah. It's actually a shorter sentence, more to the point, and I feel like the imagery's better. I mean, obviously, dynamite fist is a little ridiculous, but go anime style with it.
Yeah.
But versus saying it's just something strong like like we always hear, oh, he hits like a Mack truck. Well, you can always change that and use a metaphor instead. Maybe he's the Mack truck.
Yeah.
I just the more I read like higher grade authors, the more I see how the metaphors really kind of suck you into the book versus when you have a lot of similes, which is what I am trying to steer away from now because I use this is just the easiest thing is like I said, hit like a Mack truck.
It's the first thing that a lot of times whenever you're writing, especially that first draft, is those kind of just pop into your head more easily.
And for those who just want the quick way to tell the difference between a simile and a metaphor, if you have to say something is like something else, that would be your simile. So, he punches like a fucking toaster oven or whatever. Versus the metaphor, which is, again, like the dynamite fist, because obviously your fist isn't made of dynamite, so that would be the metaphor. And that works just so much better in everything. Romance, like just anything you can use. But, again, just like those simple sentences, you just start small. If you write the first sentence with the simile, you can, when you do the editing, your rewrites, go back and look at that and be like, okay, how can I make this better using the metaphor? So that's kind of the way I've been going around, especially like the story I'm working on now. I've been going back and catching these a lot. And I'm like, okay, if I switch these to metaphors, and you don't want to go metaphor heavy all the time. Yeah. Similes have a purpose, and they're definitely useful. Balance. Yeah. You want a good balance either way. Because I've read things that were just so metaphorical that I'm just like, okay, this fucking sucks. Like, what am I reading here? Yeah. Like, is this guy swimming in the ocean? No, it's her eyeballs. But why are we just talking about the ocean for 20 pages? Because
it blew like her eyeballs.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I get it. You're swimming in her eyes, but then you just go on and on and on about the currents and the drifting and the heartstrings. And, oh my God, I don't know what you're talking about no more. The next one, now this is the one that almost every writer I know, including myself, has not just done, but you'll find it really, even the Yukio Mishima, who's fucking awarded, or was Nobel Prize nominated many times in his life before he died, I find it a lot in his work, and that's passive voice instead of active voice. Here's another good example. This one's a little better than the last one. I think you'll dig it. The passive voice is when, instead of, putting the action on something, the action is being done to something. So in this case, it would be you. Yeah. So passive would be, Spencer was walloped in the face by Caleb's floppy dildo. So you're getting walloped in the face by the floppy dildo. Yeah. You know what that means. You're getting hit by a dildo.
Yeah, floppy dildo.
But if you do the active voice, it spices up the work without really changing it too much. Instead, Caleb's floppy dildo walloped Spencer in the face. You just reverse it. Yeah. That's all. Whenever you see the word was, usually that means that you're using obviously not all the time, but that usually means you're using passive voice if your character's in front of that.
Which you also have to keep in mind with doing that whenever, with how you're telling your story. Is it first person, third person? Is it somebody telling a tale, or is it actually happening? Mm-hmm. Because that also affects on if the was or is of the matter.
This is where it's so easy to do this. That's why most writers tend to do it if they're not taught active voice from the get-go, which most of us just, something you don't notice, would be like, Spencer's brains were eaten by the zombies. You don't even think about that. It sounds right, but it's not. It's the zombies ate Spencer's brains. You want the active. Now, there's times where passive, like if you really want to show somebody is maybe weak-willed or something, or you could have one character who, you notice those sentences are passive, and that can subconsciously get in the reader's head as long as everything else is active. So if you have like maybe a girl who was a victim of some kind of abuse or something by her husband, you could start the story off where things keep happening to her and it's kind of passive, and maybe she's plays like she's the victim and stuff, but then as she gets stronger throughout the story, and you can start throwing those active like the active voice into her sentences. Again though, if you're pitching that to an editor, you would definitely have to point that out, or especially if like an agent you're trying to shop the book around, because they'll point that out, like, oh, why is it you use too much passive voice? Like, no, that's purposely done. Yeah. But that's one thing you'll move up in the writing world, and you'll find your style, and you'll find readers more interested in your work if you switch to that active voice. And that's one of those things, if you look at your old work, you'll probably notice that. Yeah. Especially when you start pointing, because even now, I don't catch it all the time. Like I finally switched my perspective where instead of just writing, I do keep, like, it's like when you learn like a new language or something, after a certain point, like even just certain phrases or something, you just know them, so you don't have to think about them anymore. You don't have to think the words in your head. So like that's the same with sentence structure. Once you pay attention to it enough, it'll just go in the back of your mind and you'll just write out without doing that. But every once in a while you'll still catch those, especially the trickier ones. Now this is not necessarily complicated, but it might be complicated for me to explain. I don't even know exactly how to word this, but limit writing in progressive play-to-play form. Example, he ran, then he got tired and he walked, and then he ran again.
So basically you're just like a whole bunch of nonsense to where you can just be like, he ran until he got tired.
Yeah, well, here's my, very good, Spencer. Here's my sentence. It's not a great sentence, but He ran until his tired legs forced him to a slow walk. So that's the action already. His legs are forcing him.
Yeah.
It was only after several minutes that he had recovered enough to resume running. So it's not like this play-by-play of she walked into the kitchen, she opened the cabinet, there was a head in the cabinet, she screamed. You can condense that and then expand it at the same time. So you can condense the sentences into one sentence, but expand it into a creative way of saying it.
And you don't want to always use "and." If you use if you use an "and" like more than 2 times in a sentence, it's too much.
Yeah, I mean, obviously depending on the sentence, but yeah, if you use "and" all the time, you're probably extending that sentence too much.
You know what I feel like a lot of this struggle comes with, and a lot of the blame can be laid at when it comes to really understanding this stuff? School.
I was gonna say our shitty school system.
Yeah,
they didn't teach any of this. They just taught awful English.
At least where we went to, where we went to, none of that. Well,
even when, because I never took creative writing classes, but whenever
did we even have them?
I don't think so. But whenever, maybe like if you're AP or something in high school, but even when they discuss creative writing, I don't remember any of these tips. Yeah. Like anything. I didn't even know what the difference between a simile and a metaphor was until I was an adult. Like nobody fucking really explained it. The internet obviously helps a lot. Why did she send me help? She always sends me TikToks on it. What are we doing down here, Spencer? Am I playing this live on air? Probably something dumb. But again, and that also goes just with a straight list form style of writing. And I've had people who submitted to us where I had to point this out to them. It's like, hey, we can't accept your work, and this is why. I wasn't even interested enough to finish your story because, Jeff walked into the house, and then Jeff put his coat on, and you just keep using these, what his next motion is in order. It's too structured, and it's boring.
Yeah.
You don't have to do all that. And a lot of times you don't even, when you're breaking down a scene, your first writing, I do this all the time. My scenes are usually too long.
Yeah.
So say I have a scene in a diner. I do tend to overwrite every part of the scene because that's how I'm imagining it. But then when I go to the edit, I cut a lot of that out. It's unneeded. You just leave what you need to keep the story moving. You don't need all this stuff to bog it down.
Because if you do put too much in there, then it doesn't give the reader a chance to imagine anything.
Yeah.
Or to paint the picture in their own head. And,
Well, that goes, and I think I didn't put this in the list because this was pretty much a whole episode we did, was Show Don't Tell. I don't know. I can't, off the top of my head, I don't remember the number of that, so you folks just look it up. But we had a Show Don't Tell episode, and obviously, if you're constantly, which that's how that list format of writing goes, it's pretty much just telling what happens. And that's boring. I mean, there's places for that in your work. You don't always need to show every single thing because that too could be too daunting to read. And then that's when you get the fucking oceans of the eyeballs and vag juice running like rivers of riveted waters of...
In our eyes?
I don't know. I don't know, dude. Just rambling. You're supposed to just fucking cut me off, remember? And then these next two, these are pretty simple. I didn't actually write these out too much. Vary your sentence and paragraph length. We talked about this before. I don't know if we did an episode on this or not, but the new trend where they say, and anytime anybody tells you what you should do, when it comes to writing, it's like, okay, that's probably fucking stupid. You never should be cemented with one way of doing something. Yeah. But the new style of writing is 3 or 4 sentences max. I mean, yeah, for a paragraph, I think it's even 2 or 3, a lot of them.
Wow.
So if you notice, even when we read The Hike, there was a lot of really short paragraphs. And that's the new way of writing is you want to limit your paragraphs to being under 4 sentences. And if you do hit 4, they should be shorter sentences. No, I think the best way to do it is mix it up. Yeah. Again, this one is just my opinion. I don't know how other writers feel about this one, but I know when I read work, I don't like things to just be uniform. Same, length of, a page has the same amount of paragraphs, the same amount of sentences in the paragraph. I like, one big block paragraph, couple little paragraphs, just different things to mix it up. It just makes the actual physical act of writing or reading more interesting.
Yeah, because you don't want to have all just big blocks. We were talking about
the old literature we've read.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. Whenever we read Dracula and things like that, whatever. Especially now, on things a lot of people are reading things on their Kindle, and you don't want to have to swipe. You don't have to swipe 3 pages to end a paragraph. Yeah. But those are 2. You don't want to have just those little. You gotta. it's one of the struggles with writing. You have to figure out how the space you need to tell whatever that part of the story you need to.
Exactly. And it also depends on your narrative structure. So you can use the size of your paragraphs and sentences to actually accentuate certain scenes or change things up. So say you have a normal flowing story so far, then you get to an action scene. Yeah, and all of a sudden you just have a bunch of one-sentence paragraphs or two-sentence paragraphs that are fast and moving quickly and things are happening.
That makes sense.
And you just, like, we've read books like that where you just breeze through a whole chapter and like, holy fuck! And then when you bring it back, you slowly reel it in maybe, or you could just jump straight to long paragraphs and be like, what the fuck happened here? Like, it depends on the scenes and what's happening. But, you can actually make the reader feel like they're in the book, like what the characters experience. A lot of action, and then once the adrenaline sets down, you slow down like extra slow, and then you go, you could only do that for a few pages maybe, and then bring it back up to normal paragraph length, like what you had originally, and then that can be it's almost like a ride. Yeah, like, okay, that's really cool.
And it also depends on like if things are going on, or if your characters are just like sitting down talking to each other. You don't want a huge paragraph of like I say something to you, but in between like the thing that I said, there's a paragraph describing everything on the table and the mood and the setting and stuff like that, other than having a quick couple like paragraphs. Or
you could really break up the flow of what's happening.
Yeah, you could be like, Spencer told Caleb he did a good job writing that with with like a smirk on his face, knowing that it's not that good. Like, something like, you know what I mean? Like, like little things like that to really punch it up, and then like we've been saying, go back to the normal, however it is you had it said it before.
Well, when people talk about pacing of a story, and this is something that for the most part, it's when you get more of a top tier writing level. I find amateurs can't do this skill very well. That's pacing. I still struggle with pacing. And for reasons that we just talked about, a lot of people don't look at pacing as the actual sentence and paragraph structures and the sizes. Because like you were talking about, you could really bog down a story by just all of a sudden throwing in a really you might think it's beautiful and great and adds to the scene, but if you just throw in like one part that's really descriptive and long that doesn't fit the rest of the scene, you're like the reader will be like, what the fuck, what was the point of that? Like, what happened? Conversely, if you have a scene that's like, I don't know, maybe like a love scene or something, and you're really intimate with the characters and the way you're writing it, you can feel like the reader can sense all the emotions and feelings going on, and then all of a sudden you just throw in like a thing about the lamp or something. Yeah. Like, well, that doesn't fucking fit. You gotta, the pacing is very important. I wouldn't say people just abandon books strictly because of pacing, but I know if something is just like awkward to read, I'll give up on it. Like, I just don't want to waste my time. And then the last one, this is more of just something that bugs me, and I find it in my writing all the time. You have to watch your tenses. Like I said,
that's when I'm still just...
That's when it takes like a long time. I don't know if you ever... I mean, there's always outliers who can master different aspects of writing perfectly, but that's one of those ones I feel most people do not master for a long time if they ever do. And like the main thing is switching tenses, or just know what tense you need to stick to. Yeah. That's very complicated when you have varying like narration styles within one story. Because maybe you switch to a first person letter or something in the story that's set in the past, but your rest of your story set in the present. You can and you're writing in present tense, because that's like for the most part, a more modern thing I've noticed is people writing in present tense. I prefer past tense. I think it's easier to write for the most part. Where it does get complicated is if you have something, I don't know, say like two characters talking and everything's in past tense. So it's like, hey, Spencer, do you remember that one time? Caleb said. But then if you're talking about that one time, then it's like past tense. Yeah. It's like, so that's how you get like the hads. Yeah. Like he had because he had.
Oh, those are rough.
Yeah, I try to avoid those. So that's where it gets a little muddy.
That's always something like anytime whenever I send anything over to be put onto the website, that's one thing that I'm always like, that is like, it's something that Caleb, because you always check, go through whatever I send. I'm like, and that's always one of the things that I worry about is the tenses. I was like, those are something that I always try to keep on, because I know Caleb's like, it's gonna be like that motherfucker. Yeah.
Fuck. The hard part of the tense issue, it really comes about when you take breaks like I do between writing a story. So if I take, like, I just had other stuff to do, so I go back to a story, especially longer stories, you might actually accidentally switch, or say the beginning of the story was in present tense for some reason, or maybe your whole story's in present, but that was in past tense. And then, like, you take a break and then you go back to writing and just, like, maybe scan the first, like, couple sentences and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm writing in present tense. Okay. And then you just go, you're like, oh, I just fucked up the whole story. Then because I've had a whole 25,000 word novella that I just fucking gave up on because I realized I wrote the whole thing. It was a horror story.
Yeah.
I think horror stories, for the most part, should be in past tense because I think that builds suspense better, just sentence to sentence. Again, personal opinion, but I've read people's submissions that their horror stories with present tense, and I just, because it's happening right then and there. So unless it's like somebody killing somebody, it just doesn't seem as scary. But I had the whole story was in present tense, and then at some point I switched because I took like a big break, and then I switched again, and I started editing it, and like going back, and I was like, oh, I gotta change it. And I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just not. That's dead to me.
You should just go and rewrite that story.
I just don't want to. I lost all passion for it because of that, and it was a real shame. It was like an experimental one anyway, but yeah, that was my first novella, and I just said, fuck it. So what on this list do you think you do poorly, do well, and what would you like to do better? Like, what do you think you need to improve on? That, I guess I would go with what you do poorly.
The tenses, probably like the passive and aggressive, because honestly, a lot of times, at least as I'm first writing, I don't put a lot of thought into that.
See, I don't really think I ever really noticed much in your work where you did put things in passive. If it was, I don't see, because I think I would remember editing a lot of that if you did it often. Like once, everybody, like, every once in a while you think you put it, but I don't know if you. We have to look at something like you're writing currently, but I don't think you do that very often. I don't think that's a problem.
Well, I mean, just
and that might be from comic book reading. Like everything's kind of active anyway, so you might have just picked that up from that. I mean, obviously, it's worth looking into, because what the fuck do I know? Right?
And honestly, I think, like, all that stuff, that everything we talked about, that I could literally do better, The big one for me is the tenses. Yeah.
Because even when I'm writing in past tense, for some reason, you ever look at a word that, like, road or something, and you're like, that doesn't look like it's spelled right, and it is?
Yeah.
And you're like, I better Google that. And you're like, why does this look weird to me? Well, I do that with tenses, where I'll be writing in past tense, but I'll be like, that just doesn't seem right. It doesn't sound right.
Yeah, like, I had such a hard time. It was something...
Like, you overthink it.
It was something, it was in the story that I was writing, and it was just, like, I couldn't figure out, like... It was one of those weird things where it's like I knew what I wanted to say, but in the tense, I couldn't figure out
the way to say it,
the correct wordage. And then, like, I think I got it, and then, like, it was like a leaved or leved or something, or like, it was something weird. And then I think I got it, but then I was still like, that doesn't seem right.
Well, like that Japanese story I wrote not that long ago, I especially at the beginning, because it was like past tense. It was like a guy's memory, kind of. So I was writing it in past tense, but there were some parts where I was like, well, this is a memory, but for some reason, at that moment, I felt like, well, this needs to be present tense, like what's happening at the moment. Like, it was only it was just random sentences that I was putting in a present tense, because I just felt like for some reason it read better. And then, like, that was immediately like, oh, that's fucking stupid. I don't know why I did that. So when I went back, I was like, I think this is all wrong. That was the biggest hurdle of finishing that story, was going back and editing all that stuff. I think that's still my biggest problem, because I overthink that.
I think I should. I probably need to work on my sentence structure, and just like we were talking about, like the
pacing and.
I don't even think so much the pacing. I think I'm okay with the pacing, but just as like as we were talking about, like the different size, because like
You feel like you write too uniform size?
Or just like not as bad as we were talking about, like the, 1 or 2 page paragraphs, but I noticed a lot in my writing, like I don't write like a half a page paragraph, because like I don't ever get that, or like dive that deep into a certain thing. So I think maybe like the taking the time and trying to expand, or beef things up a little bit more.
I like to think sometimes my paragraphs might go a little too long, but anymore I shave them down. Been pretty good about shaving them down. So I think my pacing and my paragraph lengths are pretty good. The big one for me that I want to improve on, not necessarily that I'm bad at it, I just feel like I want to get a lot better, is the metaphor thing. Using more metaphors and doing them better. Again,
those are something like I don't. If I do use it, it's not like it's not something that I'm actively thinking about trying. It's just something. Oh, like as I'm just writing, it's just something that kind of like flows out.
Yeah. See, I think it makes stories cooler, and also kind of like how we were talking about the list thing of doing things in order and stuff. I feel like metaphors usually kind of break that up. Because generally, if you're telling a story that's progressing forward, you are going to have kind of that list aspect to it. Like that, fucking 1, 2, 3, 4, like the way your story's going. I've been trying, that's another one, like I think I overthink that sometimes, where I'll go into something and I'll be like, hey, this seems like it's going too much in order of what this person's doing. And it might fit the actual paragraph, but I always kind of want to break that up. Like the word then, I'm just trying to get rid of that.
Just never use then.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of that. So if I'd be like, she's eating dinner and there's a rat on her plate or something, and I don't want to be like, and then she, or just then she. I just try to get rid of that and just rephrase the whole sentence. And I think that's another thing. You just get rid of the fucking word then for the most part, because I noticed that when I was reading different kinds of fiction, that I don't really see that in the stuff I think is really well written. I don't see the word then as, progressing what's happening. You just do different things like, I don't know, here's John Steinbeck for an example. He's good for that, I think. Or watch, he'll be the opposite. He'll be the one that uses it all the time.
All these thens.
All that came from starting to say New Baytown is a pretty town. I turned right on Elm Street instead of left and walked fast up to Porlock, which is cockeyed parallel with High. Wee Willie, our fat constable, would be... And it just continues like that where, it's progressing. Like, this guy, he fucking turned right on Elm Street, but you don't really think about it because he just turned right. You didn't say, then he turned right. Yeah. That's where the problem is. A lot of times when you're writing, it seems like you need that word then for some reason. And then this happened. Because it's like when you're telling a story, and then this happened, and then this happened. But good orators don't do that either.
Yeah.
It's just...
And again, that might be something that you might just have to do during your first draft to get it out.
Yeah.
And then it's just it's like pulling teeth. You just got to get rid of all of them whenever you go back to the...
Well, the way I think about all of these, they're second draft things.
Yeah.
Granted, especially like the passive and active voice, those are better to catch on the first one. If you can, like if you can just work any of these just into your normal writing style, but it's like a skill. You have to build it up.
Yeah.
It's not going to come naturally at first unless you're just, a genius or something. For the most part, when you first start out, you're just trying to tell the story and you're getting your, toes wet.
Yeah.
But as you progress as a writer, you'll start to get some of the, like your toolbox. You get more tools. So eventually like when you're working on something, you buy a house or something, you fill your toolbox with actual tools and you have to learn how to use them, what they're for, and then eventually you just grab them without even thinking. You just grab what you need without thinking about it. That's your writing thing. So your metaphor, you'll just use it without thinking about it. When to use a simile, you'll do that with it. That if that works better in your sentence. That goes with everything. And then even so, that second draft is always where the real magic happens. At least in my personal opinion. And getting rid of that fucking then.
Yeah.
Another one though, this is just a quick tip. Because this is a hard one for me. The word just.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to use the word just because it's like you don't need it. Same with very too. If you're using very, like his penis was very hard.
Yeah.
No. Don't use very. Find something else. It sucks because it's so easy. That's the problem.
Just I'm not sure I use, but just, very I've used very quite a few times.
Well, here's where, because I use just too much, I find, and I get rid of it. But here's where it seems like it's needed, but it's not. They just got married.
Yeah.
Versus they got married. When you say they got married, you're just like, okay, they got married. When? But if you say they just got married, that's like a measurement of time. Yeah. Like, oh, it just happened. But you'll find out you use that way too much. Like, if you look back on your work, you'll be like, holy shit, I use just a lot, and it's just not good. Yeah. But like I said, very, because if you're using very often, that means you're probably missing a better word that just actually means, like, so I said very hard. I'm sure there's a word that you can use that would mean very hard instead of saying very hard. Or you could, again, just use a metaphor. Or you even use a simile there, hard like concrete.
Yeah.
Or concrete hard, if you want to make it. That's another one, trying to get rid of that like. for when it comes to the similes there, which I actually like that example. I could say concrete hard instead of hard like concrete. It just makes the sentence smoother, and you don't really have to think about it.
So then would you get as well?
As is the same thing. Same as like. That's another one, because sometimes I spice it up with as, because, get rid of that like, and I'm like, well, I'm doing the same fucking thing. Again, a lot of that part, that's definitely second draft stuff.
Do you think, like, that kind of weird thing, like the very... Now, what about whenever you're doing, like, a character's dialogue?
That's fine.
Yeah, because
that's how you talk.
Yeah.
So if you just like... You have to remember, though...
It has to be within your characters.
Well, it has to be your character, and definitely if you give them a tick or something, like it's a Valley girl, she's going to say the word like a lot after every like sentence, because she's like a fucking idiot. Like, but here's the problem. You'll annoy the fuck out of your reader if you do that. I know I would get annoyed. Like, well, even like this Coin Locker babies, there's a couple characters who are meant to be kind of despicable, very unlikable, and they just don't stop talking. Even when the person is not listening. So it's done purposefully, but you get really mad at them. But you can do that on accident. By just having characters who...
It's very different between if you're doing it
on purpose.
With a purpose, because you don't want the reader to like that character, other than you're just not doing a good job. And it's not necessarily that they're not liking the character, they're not liking your writing.
And you have to remember, if you give a character a trait... Like something they say, maybe they call everybody Hun or something.
Yeah.
Like, fucking. I'm writing a story now. I got a Texas waitress. She calls everybody Hun. I switch it up, Hun, darling, sweetie. Those kind of things. Gotta remember, if you're doing like long form fiction, like a series or something, and that character's in every one of those series, you have to constantly remember that character tick. It's got to be there, or it's gonna be really jarring when it disappears. Same thing. It's just like eye color. Like you can't forget that character's tick. At the same time, you have to remember that could be very annoying if a character has a certain trait. Like a lot of H.P. Lovecraft, he has these fucking hobos or random bindle stiffs talking, like the way they speak is like in this fucking weird accents or something, and it's like, dude, you just ruined the fucking story because I can't understand what they're saying.
Well, like I'm reading The Boys, and like a lot of the characters are either like British or French or Scottish or like Irish. And I'm normally like, I watched like a lot of like BBC America, so I like those accents, but like it's different from hearing somebody to talk and reading it and just be like, what the fuck is going on now?
Well, see, here's the thing. When you have accents in your story, if you use them, then you have to stick with them.
Yeah.
If it's a character, which I guess it works for H.P. Lovecraft when he did like, somebody that only has a couple sentences. So like, a professor is talking to some hick and they have a weird country accent, and my problem with him is he went too hard on the accents where you could barely read what the fucking person was saying. Let's say you just gave somebody like a Texas twang. You have two options. One, you actually have the Texas twang or the Boston accent or whatever in your story, and then that person has to talk like that for the rest of, however long they're in there. Or, which I think is the better option, just mention that they talk with a twang and maybe bring that up every once in a while. Like, Dan said with a Texas twang.
Yeah.
And then, just to put it in the reader's head so they could do the twang. You don't have to fucking do the twang.
I don't know about you, but whenever I tried, like with my butcher story, the Russian, there was somewhere I tried to write my character talking with like a
Russian accent, kind of.
like not a broken English, but like a person
Eastern European accent.
Yeah, and like that's just hard for me because like I just have a hard enough time getting it to so it's supposed to sound normal.
And then you're stereotyping too. Yeah, like a person from Russia, like what you think their shit. Like you get with the fucking I don't know, like what was the dude on Star Trek had the Russian accent, so you just, or maybe you try to go with like Ivan Drago, which is he's fucking, what, isn't he Swedish
in real life?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
He's not even a Russian. So he's
really?
Doing an accent. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. Anyway, the accents, like, you got to stick with it, or like I said, I think it's better.
We don't feel like just saying that he says it in a thing that's not lazy, like.
Well, you're not saying that every time. You just wants to introduce it. And you don't have to say it as the dialogue tag either. You don't have to, he said it in a Texas twang. Usually the way writers go about that I see is when they're introducing the character or something, and you do the quick description of what they look like, and then like you just say like their speech pattern or something. Like you just give it a description like anything else. I just find like in short story writing, like just saying he has a Texas twang is a quick way to do it.
Have you ever tried to write anybody yet with like a stutter? or like a speech impediment kind of?
I've done stuttering in a lot of tense situations with like cowards and stuff. Again, don't overdo it. If you can't, they haven't, like, not a person that actually has a specific stutter that's going to be something that's reoccurring. That would be annoying, I think.
Like the kid from Id, like, you know, like that can be difficult. But like, where do I use it? How much do I use it?
And I've also, and then even if you did have a character who had a stutter, show the stutter sometimes, but maybe just break it up with, like, you know, describing that he stuttered or something. You know, again, that's where the laziness might actually be beneficial. So, you know, you could say Ralphie told him to fuck off with a stutter, like, you know, something like he said with a stutter.
That, or like I brought up it, like a lot of times, like he had the stutter whenever he got like stretched out or scared or something like that.
And again, I'm sure Stephen King, even though he said is his main dialogue tag, he probably would put he stuttered.
Yeah.
Like as instead of he spoke, he stuttered. You could use that if you don't want to actually say the stutter, like have the I, like, because that could get kind of irritating.
Well, and especially nowadays, you got to be careful because you don't know now you might offend somebody with that.
That's very possible, especially if it comes off like you're making fun of them or something. I'm trying to think what else we could cover here before we leave.
I'm sure there's a lot of other things we could talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was trying to keep it simple here. I don't want to go too deep into the waters of tips. But, again, like I said, though, you know, to reiterate, these are things that you do when you get more advanced.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're an amateur, like, you have to learn these first. That's the thing. You have to learn these first. You don't just start off being able to do this stuff. So don't fret if you're not getting it right away, or if you notice, oh my God, I used just 487 times in my story. What am I doing? Mass delete it.
Yeah.
Control, find, just, see how many times, you know, depending on the software, you can just replace the word, or just, delete the word. Of course, that could be a little screwy, too, and all of a sudden your sentences don't make sense because you realize some of them actually just was the proper word.
Yeah, sometimes you do need a just.
Like,
which is the other aggravating thing, because, like, there's so many times where it's like, you're not supposed to ever use this or do it this way, except this one time when you might.
Yeah, there's no definitive 100% rule works all the time. That's the thing that's fun about writing, but also a super pain in the ass. Again, maybe I'll make a video on this sometime with some actual, like more examples. Because I didn't even feel like looking up different examples on that. I just wanted to give what was off the top of my head. I feel like that'd be more genuine to the people, so you could kind of think of, like, what our way of going into writing is. Because everyone's different. And some people have different talents, too. So maybe, let's go back to the accents thing. I think Paulie Cooley's The Black. Didn't he have a character in there that had an accent, but none of the dialogue had the accent. He just, I think, described it at some point. I feel like
maybe I can't remember.
I don't remember. Maybe even a couple characters had accents in there. That's another thing. If everyone has, like, say you get a group of people all from different places, they all have different accents. Do you really want to have to do each accent? No.
And then make sure you do it right, because, like, say, like, if you got somebody from New Orleans and you got that Cajun accent, and, like, you gotta do it in a certain way without it sounding fucking terrible.
Or bring up Chet Hanks, who's he's in deep water. Why do I keep using deep water? Chet Hanks is in deep shit right now because he keeps doing that Jamaican accent.
Oh, really?
And people are, like, finally like, all right, what the fuck, dude? Why do you keep doing this? Like, you're not Jamaican. It's cultural appropriation or something. Well, I don't want to talk about that, but in the writing world and stuff, and pretty much anything, if you do it badly, like, if you don't actually know how Jamaicans really speak and you try to give somebody a Jamaican accent, it'll be like, again, like we said, stereotypes. You're just coming off, hey, mon, and then you do some shitty half-assed accent.
Well, so, you know, that's with everything, even like with Chappelle, and anytime he's a white guy, and it's just like, oh, well, my goddy.
Yeah, but that's supposed to be so stereotypical, it's comical.
Well, but I'm just saying, as just in a general, you can do that with anybody.
Mm-hmm. So if you had to give some advice to the listeners here about their writing, what would you say a good starting off point for their writing would be, like, style-wise? Like, if you had to, say they're just writing a story. They never really wrote before, so all the rules we just said, like, well, not the rules, like the fucking advanced tools they don't necessarily know. Like, what would be a good way just to start writing where you can slowly learn to incorporate that stuff?
Well, I mean, it's generic and everybody always says it, but the first thing is always just write.
Yeah.
And it's advice that I'm not following right now. But that's what that's what it would be. Would just start writing till you get to the feel of like where writing's not becoming so much of a hassle, or like I gotta sit down and open up the laptop and do this shit.
That's the first thing to overcome, and then the second one is to get to the point where you're not thinking about the physical act of writing so much. Like, you're not thinking about even like the things we were just saying. You're not so obsessed about the style and everything you're doing. You're just more concerned with telling the story, and then you can get to those things later. That's one thing where even now my story production is so slow. Because I'm just finally but now it's just because I'm procrastinating.
Yeah.
But I've finally gotten better, like, this year. But it would take me so long to finish something because, one, like, you're editing as you go, which is another one you probably shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But I always felt that kind of worked for me, but I don't, like, not mass edit, but, like, if I get next day I pick up, I'll go a couple paragraphs up and start from there and just maybe edit those a little bit and go down. But just being able to, like, I don't know, just not worry about it so much, just not obsess about how you're writing or, does this sound good? Try to get it, don't try to get it perfect on, from Jump Street. It's not. Just worry about just getting it out. Like you always say, just fucking throwing it out, getting the bare bones story out.
Well, to use the metaphor, the story's like clay. It's like wet clay. And you can always mold it after you're done. You can shape it and move it after you get something on the page.
Some kind of shape. Yeah. You have to shape something. Yeah, because if you don't have you have to have the starting shape before you put any details.
Or the house, if you want to use the house metaphor.
Foundation.
Yeah, it's the foundation, or, the framing, you can't do anything else until you get that done.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate starting block.
Damn right. So, Caleb and Spencer's advice when you're starting out writing and you want to be able to incorporate these things into your writing is don't actually worry about it. Just write, and then when you go back for your edit, that's the important part. Get the story done, no matter how shitty it is, no matter how awful your writing is. You can always fix it as long as you go back after that first draft, and then you could check for your metaphors and how many times you're using the word just and like and as, and how many fucking awful accents you decide to put in and how you hate them and want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
How you didn't realize that you named one character the same thing as another character, so now you have two guys walking around named Mike, and that's a real pain in the balls. You ever do that? You ever accidentally name two characters the same thing?
No.
Like you had Michael and Mike?
No.
I've read stories where there's... What, didn't the King Arthur have like multiple Johns or something?
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
Can
we have a Rick?
You always hear stories about writers who, like, kill a character off twice.
Yeah, accidentally kill a character twice.
That I don't necessarily get, unless if you, like, we were talking about, like, if there's a long break in between.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have notes and you're writing a series and you're on the third book of the series, and maybe you forgot, and you have 800 characters, that's another reason I'm not a huge fan of writing series, because I feel like I would fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, you definitely have, like, to have Scrivener or something, or just a notebook with all your fucking notes, and this character died in book 2, chapter 7. Like, I would definitely keep those notes. But I feel like a lot of people do not. They just want to keep writing.
You need the story Bible.
That's why you get fucking somebody with piercing blue eyes, and then later they got mesmerizing amber eyes.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, which is it? That's completely different colors. Anyway, we went way longer than I was expecting. So, I'll end this on... How do you do, but fuck your mom? No, sorry. That's if you like this episode, then give us a 5-star review. Is that right? Something?
Yeah.
We just signed a $100 million deal, so we can only be found on Spotify. No, I wish. If I did, we'd be balling in that DPW money. We'd be fucking getting tattoos and shit. We'd be fuckboys galore.
Honestly, would maybe have to find a way to weasel them out of the money and just not do podcasts anymore. Just leave somewhere there.
Just hire 2 guys to do it for us.
Just literally take all the money out of the bank, withdraw it all out of the bank. All of it. Yes, all of it. Win it in the knapsack.
I would feel like there was some kind of pressure to do well. They actually have good researched articles that we turn into podcasts, like our own article. Like, there'd be too much work involved. If you folks want to check out anything we write that we were talking about and judge our writing style, you can go to drunkenpenwriting.com where our fiction is available. If you... I don't think I had any recent stories. Well, not since Halloween anyway. If you want to follow the coolest tweeter channel video vlog, I don't know what I'm saying. What am I saying, Spencer? Follow us on Twitter at Drunk Pen Writing. That's it. Follow us on Twitter at Drunk Pen Writing, Instagram, Facebook at Drunken Pen Writing, and you better follow us on YouTube at Drunken Pen Writing because we will be putting sporadic videos out from time to time, and I'm sure people will like those. See my face to go with this beautiful baritone voice. Any parting words, Spencer?
Do some writing.
Do some writing.